Hello and welcome along to another EFL Manager special from the Honest Football Podcast. We've had 10 days off due to a mixture of work commitments, illness and whatever else. But we're back and there's loads to catch up on because nearly every EFL club has decided to change manager in the last week or two. I'm joined by Craig Savage as always, and we're going to start with the most recent one, which is Stephen Robinson joining Morecambe FC to replace the surprise outgoing of Derek Adams, which we'll get to in a moment. Of course, Steve Robinson, someone who played for Luton in the mid-2000s, someone we know well as a player, and is obviously an experienced manager across the board. So we'll talk about him in a minute. But firstly, Craig, we've got to react to the bizarre goings-on with Derek Adams, because Morecambe, 10 days ago, not even that, won the League Two playoff final. It was a controversial game, but over the season, they deserve to go up. It's an incredible achievement. And then a few days later, Derek Adams leaves for Bradford. It's a bizarre move. Do you have any explanation as to why it's happened?
No. I think when we watched the playoff final between Morecambe and Newport County, I think I tipped Newport to go up. And to their credit, Morecambe, they won promotion. It was dodgy penalty, as you say, but obviously they won the game. So you have to give them a lot of credit. Morecambe, for the first time in history, go into League One. You think that's a good opportunity for Derek Adams to stay and have a little bit of enjoyment time, like we say about Wickham going into the Championship last season, going up there, have a little bit of fun, and to leave. I find him to pursue opportunities, new opportunities, is baffling. Well, why not go? Why would you want to go to? All right, I know Bradford are a bigger club than Morecambe. Don't get me wrong, but Morecambe are in a higher division now. And I know they'll have the lowest budget in League One, and we'll get to the predictions that come August. And no doubt I'll probably pick Morecambe to finish bottom. But sort of the point is you go out there and enjoy yourself. Have the good year in League One. You're facing Sunderland. You're going to manage teams against Sunderland and Sheffield Wednesday, Portsmouth, Ipswich. And to me, I think he's bottled it to pursue opportunities to stay in League Two. I feel sorry for the fans because I feel like they backed him so well. Had a brilliant time this whole season, despite not going to the game apart from one. And to do that, I think it's a bit of a slap in the face of the Morecambe fans as well.
It's just a bit of a strange one to me, to be honest. I mean, I can kind of understand it from the point of view that, as you say, reputation-wise, Bradford may be a bigger club. They may be able to pay more money, whatever else. But Adams has taken sides up to League One before and kept them up. I just found it a little bit strange. I don't really know. And it's almost, as you've seen sort of on social media and as you've alluded to, some of the Morecambe fans, it's tarnished what was an unbelievable achievement from him and the squad to take them up. And he somehow managed to leave on a sour note, which I do find a little bit odd. But I would argue out of this, Morecambe have struck quite lucky because, as you say, they are going to be one of, if not the favourites to go down next year. But now they've appointed Stephen Robinson. And he is a man that we've mentioned as a Luton Town player, was brilliant, a Northern Ireland international in the past, but has most recently managed at Motherwell, has done a brilliant job with them. He's got to Europe before with them. He's done really well with the club. And I think this is a little bit of a genius appointment. But what are your initial reactions to it?
Just as much as the Derek Adams departure, the arrival of Stephen Robinson has just surprised me as well. And I think it's a really good. I think it's a very good appointment, very solid one. It's a new opportunity for Stephen Robinson in League One. Obviously, he had a bad time in Oldham. You want to put that to bed, like, all right, I'm bad. I want to prove myself better. And he's got a tough challenge. It's a good appointment, tough challenge. But again, you look at how he did well in Motherwell. Took him into Europe. No one expected Motherwell to be in Europe. So you have to give him a lot of credit for that as well. I got sour in. I think his time was past. And the results weren't going his way. But this is a very good appointment for Morecambe, and I think Morecambe fans should be excited. I hope that Morecambe fans are realistic and just say, let's just go over the flow. Don't worry about how bad the football is or good football is. You know you're probably going to be defending more times than attacking. So you'll probably be in the next question, but it depends on who stays. There's a few key players in this Morecambe side who've done well, and they've been linked with higher clubs in the Championship and maybe some of the Premier League, never know. But if he keeps them, it could be a good season for him.
Yeah, I completely agree. There are, as you mentioned, most of their squad is quite experienced, which has actually worked in their favour here. But there's a few younger ones that are getting a bit of interest from higher division. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But I know you mentioned that it ended quite poorly at Motherwell for him, Steve Robinson, but he did still have a 42% win rate. He had a fantastic time there. He's probably been quite clever in bringing someone that Charlie's interviewed on the podcast before, Diarmuid O'Carroll, with him, had a spell at Morecambe as a player, has coached with him at Motherwell, knows all about him. And more importantly, he's kept John McMahon as the assistant manager. So there's that little bit of continuity in the squad as well. So could you argue from a coaching team point of view, before we get onto the details of his contract, it's actually quite a clever way of assigning the team, having someone who's been there already, having someone he's worked with before who's played for the club, and having him as the spearhead of that all.
Yeah, it's all about trust, isn't it? So, as I said, look, he's got Diarmuid O'Carroll, he knows him well, obviously up in Motherwell, and he's a former player. So that's very key. And John McMahon is obviously an assistant, as you said, he knows the players, so it keeps the balance. So it gives Stephen Robinson an idea of, right, this is what Morecambe's like. This is what the town's like in Morecambe. It's a nice little place in the sea. This is what it's like in the area. And then you've got John McMahon. This is the players who we got. This is what he does. This is what he's good at. It blends quite well. And then you give Stephen Robinson support from the outside, maybe try and change a little thing, even though it was successful last season. But Stephen Robinson's tactics are going to be totally different to Derek Adams' tactics. So it's finding a little bit of blend. And it's solid, as in he didn't gut the whole managerial coaching side, shall I say. Didn't gut that because they didn't all follow Derek Adams. So to keep someone, just at least one person in, just to say this is the in and out of the club, and obviously with Diarmuid O'Carroll in there, former player, it makes it's very, very solid.
Yeah, completely agree. And I guess one of the things we have got to say on that front, he has been appointed as a manager. A lot of EFL clubs going down the head coach route. So he is going to have that in the summer where he can make those changes himself. And also, we've got to mention the fact that he's been given a 3-year deal. So a bit like you mentioned, the chairman, or the board at least, are sort of realistic about what's going to happen next year. It's going to be a tough scrap against relegation. And it looks like, based on that, certainly from a financial point of view, trying to pay him out of a contract, that they're committed to him whether they stay up or go down next year. And I think that's only a good thing. But do you agree?
Yeah, the chairman, I think when you look at Jim Bentley, he's been there for, 10 years, probably around that time. So he clearly has loyalty in his managers. Derek Adams decided to leave.
Yeah.
Wasn't like he got the sack, he decided to leave. So I think the chairman has full faith in Stephen Robinson. And I think the chairman's got to be more, and I think the key word for this, for Morecambe, is being realistic. Keywords, being realistic, because, yeah, they're a fish, a small fish in a big pond. So I think the chairman's got to be more realistic and say, okay, we've got you on a 3-year contract. We know we'll probably might get relegated at the end of next season, but we hope that the season after you can probably get us up there again and probably promotion back into League One.
And one of the other things I wanted to ask you is coming from the statement from the joint chairman, Rod Taylor. He talked about the fact that Stephen Robinson had both good plans for the club, which comes out of every interview, but they were also impressed with his contacts. Now, looking at someone who's going to be responsible for the signings as a manager rather than a head coach, do you think they're potentially thinking, given some of the clubs he's played at and worked at, and with his Northern Irish links as well, is he potentially thinking this is a great way we can get players into the club that might be able to keep us up?
Yeah. You look at his former clubs, Luton, for example. Obviously, we know Stephen Robinson very well his time at Luton. I'm sure he'll have someone. Gary Soot will definitely help him out and pass on to Nathan Jones. And I'm sure one of the Luton youngsters will go out there on loan to League One for Morecambe. Michael O'Neill was another example. He was assistant manager at Northern Ireland, so he'll probably have some links for Stoke. So Stoke might want to send some new players to Morecambe. So I think the links are very crucial. I think for any manager, if you've got links for other clubs, especially higher clubs that want to send the youngsters out on loan, it makes it a lot easier. But if it helps improve the squad with key loan signings, then why not?
Absolutely. And the final thing I want to talk about before we assess what's going to happen next season and beyond is the style of football, because it's something we talk about quite a lot in these manager specials. Now, Steve Robinson was a very technically good player. Used to spray the ball around in midfield constantly at championship level, at League One level for Luton Town. However, he's played quite a direct style with Motherwell. Now, that's partly enforced in the SPL in some games because of the style of the plastic pitch in some grounds and some of the teams that they're up against. But he is a good footballer. So what do you sort of think he's going to opt for? Do you think he's going to go for a more sort of cautious and direct style to try and cope, which to an extent Derek Adams did at times? Or do you think we're going to see them try and football their way out of League One relegation? What do you think they're going to go for?
I would think it'd be football suicide if they play their way out of it. I think you have to be a bit more bolder in your decision. You probably have to go to be a bit more defensive because the other teams are obviously going to have a bit more of the ball. It's how you deal with it once you get the ball. You might have to go direct. You might have to. The guys are staying up top because they were very good, very, very good. They somehow stay. They can hit. Hopefully, they can hit teams on the counter attack. But I wouldn't say it's negative though. I wouldn't say it's a negative thing to have. You know the quality you've got, and sometimes you have to deal with it.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually, it's one of the few things in football that we completely agree on, which is that defensive, cautious, and counter-attacking isn't necessarily a negative game plan. And I think Morecambe are built to counter-attack teams, and we've seen that at times, even through the playoff campaign. But as we mentioned, we've got to talk about what's going to happen next season and what our thoughts are. I think we're both in agreement that they're going to be fighting for relegation, regardless of whether they go down or not. But Steve Robinson's a manager who shocked the odds before. He got Motherwell into Europe when it wasn't expected. Morecambe are a club that have shocked the odds by getting into League One to start with, against some bigger teams in terms of reputation. So, Craig Savage, this season for Morecambe, Steve Robinson, I think we're both agreeing we'll see out the season, but will they stay up? That's the big question, because it is a brutally tough League One this year.
Yeah, well, I haven't thought about predictions for League One yet, and it's
a headache.
It depends on other aspects as well off the football pitch. So I want Morecambe to do well. I really do, because I like to see the underdogs do well. I really do. I really do. But I have to be realistic. I don't see them. Despite a good managerial appointment, I don't see them surviving, unfortunately. But they'll give it a good go. I slagged Wickham off in the predictions last season. Said they're going to get absolutely hopeless and they won't get anywhere near out of the bottom three. And to be fair, come the end of it, they're only a few points out of it. So I think probably the same for Morecambe. I think they'll have to. I think the first few games are going to be tough. Get their feet in the ground, see what League One's really like, get a little bit, and then I think they might progress. Probably come like September, they'll finally settle down. I think come August there'll be bright lights. Oh my God, League One! There's so much quicker football in League Two. Oh, we'll go at the stadium light, and then the honeymoon period will come down, and it'll calm down, and then they'll hopefully start playing some football. So, but yeah, I don't think they'll survive, but I think they'll give it a good go.
Well, it's quite interesting actually, because the point you mentioned, while I don't actually agree with you on the outcome, interestingly, the point I agree with you with is the start is so crucial, because in the end, that was what was Wickham's undoing in the Championship last year. To, as you say, use a similar example. Those first 4 or 5 games, it was sort of the classic cliche of rabbit in the headlights, heavy defeats. And then as soon as they got going, as soon as they won a game and got the bounce, the rest of the season, their form would have kept them up. It was just those first 5 or 6 games that cost them. So I think that is crucial as well. I think we all know that it's going to boil down to recruitment, who they can keep and also who they can bring in to add to it and which contacts Steve Robinson can use. But I'm going to go for it. I think they'll survive. And the reason I think they'll survive is it's something else you mentioned. They are so stable off the pitch. And there are a lot of clubs in League One, particularly in that middle to bottom range, where that doesn't always apply. And I think there are other chairmen that may pull the trigger on a good manager too early. I think there are others that will panic. And I don't think Morecambe are at risk of doing that. And as a result, if they don't start awfully, if they can just keep in touching distance, I think they'll be all right. So I'm going to go for them to finish sort of 18th, 19th, make it out. And that means there's going to be some big teams going down next year. So I'm looking forward to my League One predictions. And I have to remember I've said this when we get to that. Otherwise, I'm going to be in a bit of trouble, aren't I? We've got a few more to do yet. But that's all for this one. Of course, let us know what you think in the comments, because Morecambe fans, it matters what you think the most. What me and Craig think is of little importance in comparison to that. So if you did enjoy the episode, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Let us know what you think of the Steve Robinson appointment. Subscribe to the channel for regular content from the Honest Football Podcast. We're going to have loads of manager specials in the next couple of weeks. I think we've got 7 or 8 to catch up on. So there's probably going to be almost daily videos. Thank you to Craig for joining me as always. We are back from our mini summer break. And if we don't see you beforehand, enjoy the Euros too. And we'll see you next time.